Okay, thank each and every one of you for being here. And Madam Clerk, do you want to say anything, or do you want me to just go into the speakers here?
If Tim has anything to say, because it's actually Tim's ordinance.
All right, Tim's ordinance. Where's Tim? There you are. All right, the floor is yours, Mr. Building Inspector Tim Evans.
I'll call off the order. Is this the public hearing for the accessory structure?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is the Board of Commissioners tasked the Planning Department to care for the text amendment to try to correct issues that were created by the North Carolina Building Code Council when they changed the definition of accessory structure. We took it to the Planning Board. The Planning Board took it up. We actually had a public hearing there, and of course, they went through it and voted to approve the text amendment that we have now come before the Board of Commissioners. So if there's any questions about it, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, if it pleases the people in the room, we will ask you to raise your hand, be recognized by me. Come to the podium to my right, face the commissioners, and speak to the subject matter. And I believe we have a 3-minute, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
3-minute allowance of time for your opportunity to speak your piece. So if you raise your hand, if you want to speak to this subject, we'll get started. Anyone? Not everybody at one time. All right, going once, going twice. I declare the public hearing is closed. And with that, Madam Clerk, with your permission and approval, we will go into our regularly scheduled meeting. And for those of you that may or may not be aware, that back corner is where the paperwork is for this meeting. If you want to see a copy of the agenda and some other supporting documents, that's where it will be, on that table in that corner, that corner. Okay, looking at the agenda, first item is an invocation, and we'll begin with just a moment of silence and reflection, please. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll officially call the meeting to order and welcome each and every one of you for being here tonight. And number 3 on the agenda is we're going to pledge allegiance to our American flag, which is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, number 4, agenda approval. I understand we may have some adjustments.
Yeah, I've got 2 requests. First of all is to defer number 11 into next month so that the audit committee has a chance to meet before the board takes action. And then also like to move number 13 on Sailfish Park up to after public comments so that we can respect the time of McGill that's here and came forward. Don't make them wait for the whole meeting.
Okay. You want to remove number 11?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question on that. Even though Mr. Rainey is listed as the bringer to the item to the board, point of contact on there, I was informed that I would be allowed to bring anything to the board that I saw fit, and this was one of those items that I saw fit that should come to the board, and would question why that it should come off.
It's not coming off. I just want to defer it till next month because we're supposed to have an audit committee meeting on the 9th, and we need to at least give the audit committee a chance to do their job before we preempt them. So I'd like to just push this to March. We can have a special meeting if we want, but they're meeting next Thursday, the 28th, and I want them to be able to have that meeting before the board takes any preemptive action.
Well, I stand on my statement, and it's probably not appropriate for me to debate this, but we would not have put it on the agenda had not we felt that time was the essence, and burning a month is going to compromise our ability to successfully complete an audit on time.
Okay,
Well, do we need to take a vote, or,
well, we're gonna get to that.
okay.
And which one was it?
Number 13, which was McGill's presentation on sailfish, just to allow them to go first, they don't have to stick around for the whole meeting.
Okay, I'm a little thick-headed whenever you say go first.
I mean,
Where
after
on the-
7A.
You want to be 7A. Number 13 becomes 7A. Okay, so if it pleases the board, let's vote on the request to remove number 11 from the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
It's 3-2. All right,
Is there any discussion about it?
pardon me?
I was just wondering if there was any discussion about that.
All right, you're probably correct. You are correct. I skipped over the discussion. So let's discuss, Madam Clerk, erase what I told you 3-2 because we didn't discuss it. So now we are going to discuss it, and I recognize you, Doctor. You have the floor.
I'm just concerned that if the staff feels like it's going to affect the timely audit, what would the audit committee see different with not accepting the contract? Especially with a company that we've used several years, and I believe Daniel's comfortable using this company. Is there an issue?
No, there's definitely no issue with going back to Martin and Starnes. This would be the second year of the 3-year contract agreement. Also, it's important to keep in mind Senate or state bill, I think it's 299, that's going to penalize us for late audits. They're going to withhold our sales tax distribution, which is around, I think, $240,000 last year.
Okay. Anything else?
I just don't understand why we would delay it if it's going to possibly cost us, how much? 240,000?
Yeah, that was last year's sales tax distribution.
All right. Any more comments from anybody else?
And I've got to agree with David and the staff. It did put this on there frivolously. It was designed to move forward so we wouldn't run into issues like Ms. McRaney just told us about. So I feel like we need to really move forward on it. I don't think that the audit committee would find anything wrong with who actually does it. I think the audit committee's job is more of to check and make sure that the audit is done correctly.
Any more comments?
Sure. I talked to every member of the audit committee. They would prefer that you let them do their job by having a meeting before taking this kind of action, which would basically preempt their consideration. So the whole purpose is not to delay the audit. It should not delay it at all. It's not even to change auditors. It's just to let the audit committee have a chance to do their job before we take action that preempts them. That's it.
Okay, you ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to remove number 11 from the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No?
The vote is 3-2. It will be removed from the agenda. In regards to number 13, moving it to position 7A on the agenda. No, we've got to have any discussion on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous to move number 13 to number 7A on the agenda. Now, I'm looking for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No.
All right, it's 3-2. It's approved as amended. So the amended agenda is in place. And we will go to number 5. I had heretofore asked the clerk to read this, but I've been informed that the rules have changed, and I was negligent, not realizing that the rule changes require that I read it. So, in regard to Part V1, Rule 13E of the 2024 Rules of Procedure requires members to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Please state if you have any potential conflicts. Mayor Holden has none. Mayor Pro Tem Myers. do you
No
have any?
conflicts. I'm sorry. No conflicts?
Commissioner Smith.
No, sir.
Commissioner Thomas.
No conflict.
Commissioner Dyer.
No.
Commissioner Parfus.
No conflicts.
Let the record show that no one on the board, including the mayor, has any conflicts with the agenda items this evening. Okay. Number 6, consideration of approving the minutes. January the 23rd, special meeting, regular meeting, January 23rd, special meeting, January the 25th. Is there a motion?
Here, I have a proposed correction. On the minutes for the regular meeting on the 23rd, this is on page 6 of the packet under Holden Beach Pier Project. It says, at the last meeting, the engineer suggested there's a different method of putting the pilings in. It's my understanding it was Chip Hemingway, who was the architect, who said that. The engineer was not there at the time. I know it's kind of wording, but it's a big difference if it's an architect or an engineer that's making that statement. So I think engineer should be changed to architect.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do you have anything to speak to that?
No, it's fine.
Will you verify that? And if you verify that, then the minutes will reflect that correction? That's your wish, sir?
Yes, please.
Anything else? Everybody understand where we are? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All righty. Number 7, public comments on agenda items only. If you'll raise your hand, be recognized by me, come to the microphone at the podium, face the commissioners.
The sign-up sheet.
That's right, we're doing it this way, aren't we? I need all the help I can get with all these changes. All right. Tony Jordan, Burlington Street.
I'm Tony Jordan, 107 Burlington Street. Just a couple things. First off and foremost, I am in favor of the care of the pier, the restoration of the pier, or the building of a new pier, whatever is deemed necessary. I hope it happens before I'm too old to walk out there and fish any longer. The other thing I want to say is I have read quite a bit on Facebook and other social media, and there has been some derogatory language toward the commissioners and concerning this issue. And I would appeal to each of us to be adults. The name calling, the derogatory comments, if you don't agree, we do not have to become hostile. And having said that, then I look back at the commissioners and I ask y'all. I notice most of the time, all three of y'all vote in a block. And that does not show individuality. You were voted individually to be part of the town council. And so I would appeal to you, as do I appeal to all of the council, to think, vote for yourself, vote your own opinion, please. Because what you are doing is for me and for other residents and other property owners of Holden Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Peggy Shabani?
Hi, I'm Peggy Schiavone, 105 Springer Drive. I've been a member of the Planning and Zoning Board from 2002 to 2009, and a member of Parks and Recreation from 2010 to 2017, and again, I've been on the committee since 2022. I would like to stress the following points regarding Sailfish Park. The park is a public park, not only for the folks who live in close proximity, and should be maintained as a park for all island residents to use. The site plan maintains the natural beauty of the site while improving parking, fishing, and access to the water for everyone. The design of the plan takes into account the feedback of the residents who live closest to the park. On June 17, 18 of 2023, and on January 12 of 2024, McGill and Associates held input sessions at Town Hall, at which time the lighting feature and the restrooms were eliminated from the plan. This park is owned by the town of Holden Beach and should be enjoyed by all Holden Beach taxpayers and Holden Beach visitors. The 2012 and 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was approved by the Board of Commissioners included many more enhancements than our final site plan today. We are kindly asking the Board of Commissioners to please vote in favor of adopting the Sailfish Park plan that will serve the entire community of which you were elected to serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shabani. Keith Smith?
Good evening. Keith Smith, 105 Durham Street. I'd like to speak to parking. Just kidding. Here. So a couple things that I've noticed in these since our last town meeting that I just would like to just highlight. I noticed that it was said by the Mayor Pro Tem that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the money. And maybe that was a misnomer, maybe it was just speaking out of turn, but I don't think we have any fiduciary responsibilities to our money. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens. I think that's a distinction. We don't serve money, money serves us. The second thing is, if the pier is left unattended, it's going to eventually fail, just as our houses will fail if we don't do anything. We all know how the ocean water and the salt air will deteriorate our houses, and we all spend a lot of money to keep our houses up. The same thing is for the pier. And so if you do nothing, then I think you have voted for destruction of the pier. So not to do, and if you didn't do any maintenance, you're only going to increase the cost when you actually do decide to either do repair or replacement. I don't think you have a fiduciary responsibility to money, but I think you do have a fiduciary responsibility to move the pier forward. And if destruction is what is on your plan, then you at least need to move forward with that, because having that piece sitting out there is not only dangerous, but it's just an eyesore for everybody if you're not planning on doing anything with it. I am glad to see that we've got public input coming up on the 29th. I'm very encouraged by that. However, from my understanding, what we're going to be looking at is the plans that you've already determined that you're not going to use. There's no new plans on the site. It's just the existing plans. That would be like me selling a horse that's already been ready to go to the glue factory. Hey, come take a look at my horse. It's really nice. Here's all the bells and whistles. And then everybody goes, oh, that's ooh and ah, and they put all the comments, but then it gets destroyed once that horse goes to the glue factory. And so if you've already determined not to use those plans going forward, which you have, then what's the point of us looking at them? And so that, I'll leave that. However, we do have an opportunity to repair the existing pier. And at the same time, you can plan a new pier. If you look at any major project that the town has accomplished in the past recent that I've been here, and even going back further, grants have always been a part of any major project. Look at our sewers, look at Block Q, look at any major project, and grants, even a crosswalk at the pier where the beach access is put in, even that was performed with grants. Who does those? Nobody's sitting up here on this side, whether it's this board, the prior board, or prior board before. None of those people applied for the grants. It's always been the town staff, and they've always done a great job at getting those resources together. We're looking at putting a bathroom on Block Q. Majority of that funding, I believe 75% of that, is coming from a grant. Let the town do what they can do because they do it the best. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, some of the town employees are going to receive national awards for have their abilities. So I would say put it back in the hands of the town, let them do their job, they'll get the money, taxes won't be raised.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Will Carter?
Will Carter, 108 Starfish Drive, Holden Beach, North Carolina. I was talking to a buddy of mine in Raleigh about funding for the pier, and while we were talking, he says, it looks on social media like you guys can't agree on anything. I said, you know, since I've been a kid, the only thing that all these people on the island and off the island can agree on is a zip code. And I got to thinking about that, and I went home and looked it up at United States zipcode.org. They had 2020 demographics on there. And they had 12,000 people live in 28462. Those 12,000 people live in 5,000 houses. So there's 7,000, and there's 12,000 houses in 28462. So that's 7,000 houses that are used for seasonal use only, right? And so got to thinking about that, and you take 2,000 of those houses are on the island. They're for seasonal use. We got 5,000 off the island. Everybody in 28462 looks at Holden Beach as their amusement park. This is where we entertain everybody, have forever. And let's put 4 people in each one of those houses, 7,000 houses. That's 28,000 people. That's every week. That's 112,000 people a month. Over 5 months, I give it 4 months for summer and 1 month around the rest of the calendar. That comes over 550,000 people we entertain on this island. And those 550,000 people, they need satellite parking over here, up to 30 acres. They need a new boat ramp for the people off the island because we don't have that many of them. They want to come over the bridge and use this boat ramp. That's great, but we built that bridge 38 years ago. We put that boat ramp under there. Winding River wasn't here. Nothing was here. You could park anywhere you wanted to. But that was 38 years ago we built that concrete bridge. And what we need on this island is a community center down here at the pier. We need a place where we can have wedding receptions. We need a place where the yoga people can meet, except for other than here on the floor. We need a place for the Tai Chi people, Holden Beach Alliance, all the people to have a meeting place down there. We need a nice restaurant. All the other islands have nice restaurants. Nobody comes from Ocean Isle to come to Holden Beach. Nobody comes from Southport to come to Holden Beach. We don't have anything for them. All we got is the 28,000 people a week, and that's not including the 12,000 people that already live here. So that's 40,000 people pressuring this island every single week of every single year, and just about every month. So I would say to the town council, let's go through and let's get a little proactive. Let's get Alan and David over here to talk to the people at Brunswick County about this 30-some acres. Let's see what they can do about satellite park. Let's see if they can go to North Carolina and find a way to put a ramp down at the bottom of that 30 acres. And then that way, they won't have to come across the bridge. That's going to free up Block Q, and so we don't have to worry about it so much. We don't have to create new parking places on $1 million an acre property. There'll be plenty of room up there. We can shuttle them back and forth on a little van right under the bridge all day long. And that would be cheaper for them, that would be better for them. You won't have to hear them bitching about, complaining about the cost of parking on the beach. But if we get a little proactive, the same with the pier. There's federal money, there's state money. Chapter 11 of the NC state budget is all about commerce, infrastructure, all types of different things they need for needy rural areas. And you go on the list of the budget, the tier system that they have for the North Carolina budget. Brunswick County comes in number 7. We got some of the most expensive houses around. You take this beach away from 28462, they are poorer than Robeson County, the number one, the lowest income county in the whole state. So we need to take a look at these things. We need to have our mayor and our town manager go talk to these people at the state. Go talk to these people from the federal government. The Board of Commissioners has to send them. They can't just walk over there and talk to them. You guys have to have 3 votes to send these guys. And they need to go do that. And before we spend any money trying to patch up a 1957 building on the oceanfront, we need to have these commissioners, the mayor and the town manager, to go explore these avenues. And the only way they can do that is that the Board of Commissioners votes for them to do that and go and officially talk to them. And there's plenty of money out there. You know, $33 million is 0.001 of the entire North Carolina budget for 1 year. That's 0.001% for $33 million. That would build a complex down here and a community center, a beautiful pier, have a nice restaurant, something that everybody in Brunswick County could appreciate, not only just the 28462. It would give people a reason to come here, and it would be a nicer place. And so I would ask the commissioners, let's get on this. Before you go spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of time putting lipstick on a pig or doing anything, let's see if we can get the funding. And nobody's ever tried. Nobody has sent anybody up from here up to any of these boards to try and get this done. So thank you very much. Is my 3 minutes up?
Deborah from Sailfish.
All right, I'm going to have to read because I have so much to say in a little bit of time, and after listening to the committee, I feel like I need to start with something that I didn't have before, so please bear with me. I'll try to do this fast. I think a lot of work went into the plan by the town. I know the town manager, I know that the assistant manager put a lot into it. There's no way you got all that information without a lot of work going into it. So I want to start by being positive that I understand the situation we're in when we put a lot of effort and time into something and then people are negative. So I want to stress that we're not trying to be negative about doing something that's good for this town, but, and I think everyone did a good job and they did the job they were tasked to do. I want to thank the town for limiting the parking hours by listening to the feedback that we provided, because that's been very helpful for us. I want to thank the town for adding trash receptacles, because you listened to the comments that we made about the problems that are currently there. But it's too much money, and we're putting it in the wrong place, and we have a lot of needs everyone else is talking about on this island. And the reason we're putting this money in the wrong place is that I've lived here since 2005, and when I started here, I want people to understand that it has always been a neighborhood green space, okay? An area enjoyed by locals, bikers, and pedestrians. When I first moved here, locals would park their cars under the trees for the shade and sit on the bulkhead to fish. Because of the cars and erosion over time, the trees and grasses were disappearing because most of the fish in the cars came in the summer months, which is when the grasses and the marshes are growing. This is the growing season. The residents recognized a problem, and the town installed a small picket fence to keep the cars from parking next to the bulkhead to preserve the natural area. Now, Once that happened, this open space became called a mini park, which is fine. The mini park is designated in the red coastal hazard area. My chief concerns about the plan are that the plan states the soil is not conducive for what is proposed, and therefore the area will require $128,000 of soil mitigation. This means bringing $128,000 of soil to the area to build it up, because it's currently underwater during high tides, which is part of its beauty. Okay? Once this area is built up, can you guess where the next high tide is going to go? It's going to my neighbors' homes, it's going to your neighbors' homes, and beach erosion isn't the only concern on this island. We're losing natural habitats for wildlife and vegetation. Just because it hasn't affected your property yet doesn't mean you aren't next. Tides are unpredictable, and I'm amazed in only 20 years of living here how fast this island has changed. If we continue to passively approve these many changes, then we are going to lose the island. One other comment I want to make real quick is that I listened to the committee. I think they did a good job of listening to the engineering design, but the point was made. No structural or geotechnical analysis was made during this plan. So we don't even know if the plan will work without a lot more money. So anyway, I had more to say. Let me end with, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Don't pay paradise to put up a parking lot. I said it a year ago, and I'm saying it again now. Thank you.
Ms. Moneypenny?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add one more thing.
No.
In 2024, the census says there's 18,000 people. That's an increase of 30% in
Ms. Moneypenny?
Brother.
I hate to cut in on that. I'm Carol Moneypenny. I live at 1008 Ocean Boulevard West. I have 2 homes on Sailfish. My parents bought a place in 1971, so as a kid, I spent every summer at the beach. So that was my turf, Sailfish to the beachfront. I've seen that park my entire life. I've enjoyed it as an adult. It's always been enjoyed by people on the beach and people on the mainland. But it's always been a kind of a natural, beautiful gem. So back in 2004, we had a town employee that spearheaded his idea of putting a pier, pavilion, et cetera, on that lot. And when all the neighbors heard about it, we were all so upset because we said, this area needs to be in conservation. It's a wetland habitat. It's important to the coastal ecosystem. I mean, we're talking about our fish, our birds, the shellfish. We swim, as a kid, we clammed down there at the big tree, the mulberry tree at the end of the street. So, I mean, this area is meaningful to all of us. But this is that open space that deserves to be deemed as conservation and preservation. I mean, the fact that you guys want to come and put all this man-made stuff in an area where we are inundated with man-made stuff, to find a quiet green space where we can go relax, look at boats, enjoy the water, where you can take your children and grandchildren to enjoy a place like that, that is unique to our island. That's what makes us special. And I really can't understand why people can't get that. Once you lose it, it's gone. This is a beautiful coastal habitat. And our marshes used to be delineated on the land classification map as in conservation. And I have a copy of that map, one of the old maps, Woodman's 9, that shows that for Sailfish and primarily all of our wetland marsh areas. So I don't know what happened. I used to be on the first public improvement committee, and we were kind of given a Hansel Gretel trail of activities to follow that were guided by our town manager and others. Back in 2004, when this first project was proposed, we gathered a petition over Memorial Day weekend and came back when Sandy Miller and Pat Sandiford and all those folks were here and had 200 signatories saying they want to keep it natural. They don't want anything. Well, that was 20 years ago. I know that much of our staff was not here. They may not even realize we had a petition back then. So when we heard that the new master plan included going back down this path again, where we thought we had set this aside for conservation, you know, we rallied, our neighborhood rallied. And people came, I went to every event, and we did another petition. I personally, and neighbors, we got 94 paper signatures. Some young folks that live right across from this park put out an online petition and have 400 signatures. That's almost 500 people that want to keep this natural. For the first meeting, our entire street was lined with signs that said, "Sale, no, keep it natural," all the way down our street. And they had been up for 8 months. And not a single town Parks and Rec person or anyone has really come to ask us why. Why are we against it? But we are against it, and we were discounted. You know, I just have to say this. Master plan says we already meet and exceed 2031 park requirements. This plan was budgeted for $250,000. They're now projecting $435,000 for a kayak launch on a tidal marsh area. This is not a lake. Okay.
Thank you,
Now
Ms.
take seats,
All right,
Tom.
we're gonna give your husband a chance. Mr. Moneypenny.
Can I help him?
I live at the same address that my wife. It's real simple. Back in, what was it, 2003 or 2004, when this stuff came up and got it shot down, and my understanding, out of our people in Harbor's Acre there, I don't know of a single person who wants to have that so-called improved with his new whatever they want to put in there. And what we have out there, I think we need to leave it just as it is. And the only thing I would say is maybe put paid parking. However many spots there are available right now, I don't know if it's 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever, but if you're, I heard a lot of things about the town's getting a lot more money from the parking than expected. Well, that area there does not need all kinds of stuff in there where everybody and brother's going to try to come over there. And it's nice like it is, and like my wife pointed out, it used to be conservation, and I don't know how you can put this other stuff in the conservation area, but I don't, I'll leave that up to what it is, whoever's looking at it with camera and what have you. But anyway, I hope you listen to the people who live here, and we do not want it.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you. I'm Brent Shaver, live at 121 Tarpon. First of all, I want to strongly urge you to leave Sailfish Park, the natural, beautiful park that it is. Thousands of people use it, sometimes weekly and monthly, and I urge you to leave it like this. It's natural, grassy, does what it's supposed to do. Second is on your preparation for the pier input. I personally hope you can find a way to move forward so that the town can afford to renovate and maintain any pier structure or any pier plan. I think just to fix it's not good enough. You've got to have a plan to maintain it and let it go forward. And on the Sailfish Park, there was a lot of information collected. A lot of people responded to online comment sections and different cards that were around the different places. I assume they're going to do something like that for the pier, and I suggest you consider putting, when somebody fills that out, put whether they're a property owner of Holden Beach on there,
and how many times they used the pier the last 12 months that it was in operation. I just think those two things ought to carry a lot of weight. And I say again, I really hope you can find a way to afford to renovate it and maintain it without raising our taxes. We just had 16% tax increase, and that can't happen every year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Did I fail to call someone's name that thinks that they signed up? Because that's all the names I've got on here. I'm not missing anybody? Okay. And we did, the members of the board did receive numerous emails in regards to this, so. All right, we're gonna move on. We're at 7A, is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
And Assistant Town Manager, you have the floor, ma'am. 7A was number 13, so if you want to follow.
Good evening. Tonight is a punctuation point of 2 budget years of work on a master plan that McGill completed as a follow-up to the comprehensive master plan, and also what was identified in the 2012 original master plan for the town. It involved much public comment, and they are here to give you a presentation tonight. The final plan that they came up with has some commonality among those that voiced concerns and those that want to see some improvements. It enhances the current facilities so that it can be used by all abilities. Turn it over to you guys.
Good evening. Michael Norton with McGill. Have with me Jim Ford with McGill. First, thanks to each of you, to the staff, and to the community, everybody that has been involved in the process. Christy just noted that it has gone over a period of time. We appreciate the ability to have been involved, be able to help facilitate and bring to you what is the result of a lot of work, a lot of effort, as was discussed, a lot of input, varying inputs, and Jim's going to go through a presentation and give a lot of background on that. He's going to move pretty quickly because a lot of it is known and pretty well known around the room. But I think what you have and what you see before you there and what you've seen in the plan is a result of all of that work. And it's, as Christy mentioned, it hones in a couple of ways of preservation and of making the park usable and accessible as well for those that may not have had access in other ways before. But I'm going to let Jim go through the presentation, give you a background on what was done as it led to this final plan. And keep in mind, the adoption of the plan is one step. The implementation of the plan is obviously to the discretion of the town when and if that should happen, as are components of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. See if I can make this thing work. Again, my name is Jim Ford. I'm from McGill. Mayor, commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. I want to say thank you to everybody because this is the process. This is a microcosm of how everything should work. Ask people what they want, figure it out, and then show them the end conclusion. With this presentation, I'd like to do that. We all know Sailfish Park. Sounds like a lot of people are familiar with this space. And as it's been pointed out, it is a largely natural area. I think as we've seen so many houses go, it's nice to see a lot that's empty, right? But how do we use that lot? Right now, it's used recreationally. There's a fence, there's a stone parking lot, there's some trees, there's the bulkhead, and there are people that kayak out there. With that, let me see if I can make this thing work. There's some images for those who might not have been out there before. It's pretty simple, and it is beautiful, and it is natural, and it is used by a lot of people. There was a long process, as Christy and Mike just pointed out. You know, there was a comp plan, there was a plan done way back, and there's been some controversy about how do we use this space. I think the nice thing is we've gone through a process where we've asked everybody, we've done that due diligence. And I'm surrounded by really smart engineers that tell me things all the time. But largely, there was opportunities for input, in various locations. There were exercises such as visual preference surveys, and you may have participated in that. There were certainly comment cards, and we did have a huge online survey. I mean, the island loves to tell you their opinion. Okay, that doesn't happen everywhere, which I appreciate that. Some of those visual preference exercises, what I call conversation starters. You can't put every image in the world of things people might want to see in a park, but it's a good way to start conversation. It's a good way to tease out what people's intent is, what is like and what they don't like. In this particular instance, there was some support for development. I wouldn't say it was everybody that lives on the street, but there was a lot of people that like it as a park, and most people agree it should stay natural, by the way. Things they thought should be improved is the canoe kayak launch, existing picnic areas, existing parking, and lighting landscaping. I'm not really sure how that will pan out, but we'll see in the concept what it ends up looking like. Concerns for development? We know the concerns. Largely it was, well, we have residents nearby. If you build a condo out there, you know that would be terrible. A huge park with a Ferris wheel would be worse. Well, we definitely don't want that to impact our residents. Increase in park usage? Probably. Let's remember it is, somebody said it was a mini park. It can only accommodate so much. That should be considered. Increases in traffic goes with that. Safety and drug use. I'm sure it occurs. I haven't seen the drug use, but I know it does. Disruptive behavior, that's subjective, but something that was mentioned quite a bit. Interactions between boats, traffic, and swimmers. Hopefully nobody's swimming out there, but that is always an issue, certainly. Part of what that community survey looked like, there was a survey card that was passed around that had a QR code on it, flyers with a QR code. There were physical surveys handed out because some people said they don't use the internet. But all data was collected. Some of the things that were the most important consideration. People said restrooms, you go to the park with kids, heck, you better have restrooms. They said that. Water access, well, we're on an island. That's a no-brainer. Parking, we know there's that small lot out there, but it is what it is. It's a small park. Amenities and programming was of something of concern. They didn't define that. Hours of use, that's a very important one. I think the towns addressed that with some signage that can be enforced. Shade, somebody said they like to park under the shade. Of course, shade's important. Top 3 improvements that people wanted, we're back. We saw the visual preference survey. Now we're on the survey. A new kayak launch. Somebody said a dock. Picnic areas and parking. Same issues. And what this points to is don't do anything different. We like what's out there. So that's interesting. As we moved through the process, there were some concepts created. There was an opportunity for folks to see the different concepts. I want to go over what they look like. But what came out of that to me was the love people showed. You either loved it and you wanted to see more, you loved it and you just wanted to stay the way it was. Either way, the residents spoke and they loved it. It's a park, they use it, they enjoyed it. So what do we do now? Well, we look back at the rest of the detail of the public input. Well, what were some of the high ideas that came out? More boardwalk, shade structures, sidewalks and picnic areas and all these things. And these concepts were brought up in that last public meeting so that everybody could see what it was their input looked like on paper. The good thing about that is that's that next level where they go, oh, is that what it looks like? Actually, that's not what it is. Some people say it's not enough, you need more. But you take all that input in and come up with a final concept, which is what's exciting. We get through this. You guys have seen this. These 2 concepts don't exist anymore, but they did get us to the final. Elements that people said they wanted, by the way, for those who aren't familiar, an accessible kayak launch, that's one of those ones that you can get into from a wheelchair. Sidewalk, again, that's an important thing because it is a beautiful park and everyone should enjoy it. Everyone means the people in wheelchairs too. And that means me. When I get in an accident or I get old, I want to be able to go out there. I want to get all the way to the bowl camp. How do I do that now? I can't. So what do we do? Improvements, simple ones. How do we preserve the natural beauty of a place we love? We don't do a whole lot to it. We just sort of change the oil, so to speak. It's a well-loved vehicle. It's time to do a little maintenance. Final concept, what did that end up looking like? What you see, what you can't see on that board because it's turned away from you, but if you look on the screen, leave the parking lot the way it is and don't expand it. However, for those of you that are less able, handicapped parking spot or 2, for ADA access. That's largely what your park ended up being is, we like it the way it is. Well, let's make it enjoyable for all our residents, not just the able-bodied residents. Handicapped parking spaces. A sidewalk to get from those parking spaces, nice ornate wrapping. It's not construction documents yet, it's still very much planning. But to get us out to that canoe kayak launch that everybody said they loved and would like to see more of. Now, there were some comments on the original concepts about the kayak launch being shown short. At at this level, these are kind of just space holders, right? There still needs to be construction and all documents and engineering that would have to vet exactly what products you might get. But you're basically looking at more of what you've already got as far as improving the quality of that piggyback line so it's accessible. Access to that bulkhead via the sidewalk. Parking spots, so not, okay. And that's what you've ended up with. That cost there could change. I will say that's based on high-level planning, but until you've actually got construction documents, you can't really pin that down. And I'd like to reiterate what Mike said. An adoption of a master plan is, did we do our due diligence? Did we ask people what they wanted? Does this represent the process? I think it does represent the process. Will that final plan ever be built? Maybe, maybe not. It's not saying you're going to promise to build anything. Adopting this master plan is simply saying, we did the process correctly, and we see what came out of it, and we'd like to move forward. With that, I said I'd be brief. If there's any questions.
Commissioners have any questions? Not for me, sir.
I just don't understand how you can have, I understand the accessibility by everybody, and that's the way it should be. Most of the folks that talked tonight talked about, we want to leave it as a natural park, and I understand that, but the we and the other people that are we's that can't walk, those are the ones that need to enjoy it just like the rest of us we's. The only thing that I see on the final plan is, again, it's to protect the neighbors from obscenity. It doesn't have any provisions for any restroom area. And that really, again, what are they gonna do? You've got somebody out there and they're gonna have to drive all the way up here to Block Q or to the pier or somewhere to use the restroom. I just don't think that's, the plan's good, unless we've got some provision to put maybe some portable toilets or something, which I know the neighbors aren't gonna like at all. I mean, it looks like we would have wanted to incorporate that. I've used that park probably, as a lot of people have said tonight, for 50-plus years. And it is a beautiful green space. And I guess, in my narrow-mindedness, as long as I can get there, it's okay. But you also have to be made aware of the people that don't have the ability to function as we do. And the plan, the final concept layout looks nice, neat, and I don't think it's going to really take away that much from the natural beauty of the area. But again, not having a place to use the restroom is going to eventually cause an issue. That's it.
Doctor, you got any comments?
I have a question, and I think one of the main concerns was the parking needs to be formalized to ensure that informal parking does not continue to promote park overuse. So I think part of the problem was without having places marked, they've got more cars there than they should. So I know the handicap spots are going to be marked. Is it going to be marked for individual cars so there's not?
I would assume once they do construction documents, the best way to designate those parking spaces with those stop bars as opposed to striping. You park one in front of each one. It's probably the next level of improvement for your parking. However, the public did say they preferred the gravel. They liked it the way it was. So we did where we had signage or parking spaces shown on the concepts to satisfy the comments, because it was a comment public-driven plan. We removed those.
But even with the gravel, we could still deal,
That's right.
make it so that it's a more organized situation. And I guess the other question would be, even if it's a park situation, I know over here we have some parking spaces for this park, but would that be designated as paid parking in the, during the parking season, or would it be for recreational use?
None of our parks right now, per the ordinance, are paid parking.
Okay. Let's see. Talking about the security features, are there any in the master plan added? Is there a possibility that?
While security is addressed as important, that would be something the town would have to decide what they want to do to make it more secure. There's a lot of options. That's something separate that would need to be considered.
Okay.
Anybody else? Comments? With that, Ms. Ferguson, you got anything else you want to add, or? With that, we thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you had a question, you gonna let the audience ask him any question?
If it pleases, what? Oh. Sound like an old school teacher up here, hold on a minute. I have to get permission from the commissioners before I can throw it to the audience.
I'm okay.
Anybody have a problem with that?
No, sir.
All right, Ms. Moneypenny, we need to record what you have to say. I want you to speak into a microphone somewhere, so I don't get in trouble.
Okay. All right, this is perfect, because you can answer my questions. No, I want you to stay, please.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so these are some of my questions.
And the microphone.
Speak microphone.
Okay, these are some of my questions. When I looked over the master plan, it said it was divided into a group of locals, which represented 178 people, and tourists for your online surveys and cue cards and some of the paper surveys. The tourists represented 282 people. That is the group that we're talking about that was wanting the restrooms and the kayak launch and all these things, correct?
I couldn't be able to tell you today which groups that were.
Well, okay. Well, there were votes from the two groups were in two categories. The locals, 178 people, and tourists, 282 people. The tourists, this was all during COVID. There was there was 358 surveys. 52 were hand-selected people with Zoom meetings during COVID of hodgepodge groups, realtors that were hand-selected by Christie, our Parks and Rec person, correct?
I think they may have done some focus group meetings, Chrissy.
That's correct. Yes, but the basis of the numbers that you were talking about are from the group of tourists and locals. For the 400 people that participated in the master plan survey to define for Holden Beach what our priorities are, right? Yes. Okay. Of the local group, which was only 39%, the tourists represent 61%. How many locals were property owner residents? Can anyone answer that question for me? How many in the survey for the master plan? For the locals, 39% of the people surveyed. The other 61% were the tourist group, 282 people, many from online surveys, as I understand, during COVID. How many of the group, Christy, were local residents and property owners? How many were represented out of that group of 410?
I just told you didn't know.
Huh? You don't know?
I will say, Mayor Holden, if you want me to respond.
You have the floor, ma'am.
That the master plan that was conducted in 2021, I did not bring in here with me tonight because we're talking about the site-specific master plan for Sailfish Park. That is broken down in the back, and it talks about residents, second homeowners, which would own property here, and tourists. But I would also put in that the budget that pays for any parks improvements on the island is driven by occupancy tax collection. So you have to consider tourists if you're going to use occupancy tax dollars to pay for parks.
Well, that's totally fine. However, don't dilute with an online survey with 61% of the people, and the locals include all kinds of people on the mainland, people on the island, I'm sure, but you can't come back. So there was a 5% subset that McGill identified that didn't agree. And if you look through their report, there's 18 pages of comments from the people that showed up at the community meetings. And the majority, I would say, over 98%, are against this project. But that small group of people, the subset of the 5% of the residents and property owners and people that vote here, participate in the input meetings, if we're diluted by 75% people that are taking an online survey, they don't pay taxes here, they don't live here,
They're not dealing with the traffic and everything going up and down the street. How could you do that? That means, you know, you're basically designing a survey that puts the residents, the property owners, and the voters as second-class citizens. We have a lower rating on the totem pole than anybody else in this whole survey. And you guys are coming up here and justifying this whole park plan based on that 400-something number. Y'all totally diluted the people that showed up. I showed up at every one of those meetings. And please read the 18 pages of people who say, leave it natural and don't do anything. You're doing us a misservice, really. I feel like you're trying to sell us a product, you know, that we don't want. I mean, everyone enjoys that space just like it is natural and beautiful. I mean, they have for decades. But the way you're doing this with the numbers, and it feels like almost, so let me tell you one other thing that this thing says. McGill said a chart, well, I'll tell you this, there is a chart in their master plan that says we already meet and exceed 2031 park requirements. We already meet and exceed those requirements. And guess what? Our park requirements that are reflected there don't even include the beach strand with surfing, swimming, fishing, sunbathing, shelling. Don't include any of that. They don't include the intercoastal waterway with boating and all those activities. They're just identifying any bare little spot of land on the island where you can go in and dump a bunch of money to put a bunch of man-made structures. I mean, we have, 90+% of the people come for the beach. And that was totally discounted in the plan. I asked the lady with McGill, why are beach activities not reflected in this plan? And she told me, you don't own the beach. I'm like, ma'am, it's not about owning anything. What we're talking about is we have an abundance of recreation here. And you guys, Christy, y'all, I assume, put forward what you wanted on the Parks and Rec buffet. Because there was no dot on the board for conservation and preservation. There was no option to leave it natural on the board. On the boards they brought to the community input meetings, that was not an option. For any of us.
You guys have to tell me what you want to do. You want to stop it?
You want to cut it off? That's fine. That's, sure.
So there's a lot.
Okay, the time allowed, Ms. Moneypenny,
Well, thank you.
has run out according to Prince.
That's exactly the good kind of passion you want to see in a process like this. I will say conservation areas are largely parks in most places. You're not nature, you're not, building anything out here. You're simply taking what you've already got, making it ADA accessible with the minimum type of requirements. So I think we're respecting that nature through the final design, which the people designed. I mean, you're reflecting the voices. And as far as the survey goes, the input that you get from surveys is super valuable. There's a lot of other input. There's a lot of open-ended conversations and data that you're collecting from those meetings. That's not just something that's in a survey. So you have to account for those voices as well.
All right, thank you so much. Both of you for all your hard work, and the staff, and the volunteers, and the neighborhood, everybody's here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, please support Chief Dixon.
Are y'all going to take
Y'all
action
want
on
to
it?
take action?
All right, we'll back up. Does anybody want to do anything? All right, Madam Clerk, did you say something?
No, I didn't.
You did? Am I ready to proceed, or you want?
No, because the action that you want is a motion to accept the final plan?
We just needed a motion whether you guys are going to accept or not accept.
So the audience understands what's going on. Staff and the powers that be have asked that the determination either go forward or not be made. Is that correct?
The board's either accepting the plan or not accepting the plan.
Accept or not, so,
And that's the final plan that was presented.
all right, what you wanna do?
I'll make a motion to accept the final plan, the final conceptual layout.
Looking for a second. If I don't hear one, it's gonna die for lack of a second.
I'll second it so we can have some discussion.
All right, sir. Who wants to discuss it?
I'll start since I made the motion. I understand this has been a long time coming, and I know that there's a lot of issues about keeping the park natural, which I feel like the final plan, I know the previous plans with the restrooms, the lighting, and everything like that was something the residents didn't want, and we want to keep it natural. And I understand the point of keeping it natural, but we also have a huge service to the community to make recreation accessible to everyone. And we already have an issue that, you know, we need to be ADA compliant. That we need the ADA parking spaces there. The one walkway they're gonna put in, they cut that down from what I can see from a walkway that went all the way around. And this is basically gonna allow someone access to the kayak launch. You know, the recreation needs to be accessible to all. Anyone in a wheelchair, anyone with any type of handicap should be allowed to use that, and we have to keep that in mind. And I think what they did was took the plan and left it as natural as they could, with also allowing the ADA compliance so that it can be accessible to everyone that wants to use it. And I think with some of the recreation funds that we take, we do have to provide that. I think making the parking lot more organized so that you don't have haphazard parking will slow down some of the usage. The benches and the swings, I think, would be nice for people. I think they have that at Sunset Beach. There's some swings at the waterside people can sit in and enjoy, and a little bit of the landscape, and I think would make it, you know, just clean it up a little bit. I think it's as natural as it can be, but I think we also owe it to make it ADA compliant. So that's why I think this plan is the best that they could come up with to minimize any more development, taking the sales out. They cut down the number of picnic spaces, just to make everyone be able to use it.
Any more discussion, anybody?
Well, again, I'm gonna have to echo what the doc said. This, I believe, this plan is the least intrusive to the landscape itself. I don't think a path out to the bulkhead is gonna take away from any of the beauty of the park. It's either that or people walk in the same place or wear the sand out, and you'd be a line in the sand where they walk. This would, again, we already are up against the requirements to make sure that all people are all people have access to everything that everybody else does. And if we say, well, leave the park like it is, but only people that can walk can go in there, I don't think that's fair. People that have walkers, people on crutches, people in wheelchairs, I don't think it's fair to everybody, even the people on the island that would have an affliction that needs to get to that, get out to that area, which is a beautiful area. But I think this is has the least effect on the beauty of the area, which is again, been there a long time, and it's I don't really see, other than a sidewalk down through the middle of it, I don't see that much has been added. A bench is sure not gonna cause any issues with anybody, but it's give people a place to sit and fish and enjoy that beautiful area. So that's the reason for my second is, if we don't make it ADA compliant now, we will.
Any more comments?
In the future.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Myers?
First, I'd like to thank McGill for the work they did. It's a very complete report. You did a very good job of summarizing public input It was very comprehensive. I think he did a great job. Also, I want to thank Parks and Rec for their efforts. I know they put a lot of time into this. I respect the manner in which you approached it, how you discussed it, and how you made your recommendation. However, it's very obvious to me the residents do not want the park to be developed, and that comes through very clearly in the comments that are in the report. They didn't want it 20 years ago. They don't want it now. I don't think they're going to want it 20 years from now. So we need to listen to them. They have the most at stake. They deserve the greatest consideration. The board should be serving them and not imposing something on them that they don't want. That's why I'm not in favor of accepting this report. While there are also some good, many more higher priority items where we probably should be focusing our resources, I do not think this is about the money. I don't think the residents will want it, even if it's at no cost to the town. That's why we need to reject this plan and stop it from moving forward. Having an approved, close to shovel-ready plan means it's just a few steps away from happening. All it takes is some grant money, and it can very quickly move forward. So I am not in favor of accepting this plan.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I essentially agree with Tom. I do appreciate the hard work that went into this. I think Parks and Rec and McGill did a great job going through this process. I think it's a great process. However, just because you can increase society's footprint on this piece of dirt doesn't mean you should. Some areas should be left as conservation. And as was said by someone, everything around this county is getting improved and man-made structures put on it. Many of the residents that I've talked to want it to be left alone. Further, I think if we do the site work that is in this current plan, that just lays the groundwork for doing all these other amenities later that the people don't want. I don't support adoption of the plan because that implies that I approve of modifying Sailfish Park, and I don't. Plus, I think the price tag is very high. I do, however, support that part of the plan that improves the parking. I think that should absolutely be done. That's all I got.
Anybody else want to say? You ready to?
Just, again, I'm just wanting to, it's not that I'm for changing that beautiful area, but it's not, the people that don't want ADA parking and an ADA sidewalk are being, I think, in my opinion, selfish to the people that have to use wheelchairs or walkers to get out there. So it's okay as long as everybody can walk, but when they get to where they can't walk, then they can't use the park. That's not fair. So that's my only input on approving it. Just trying to look after the ADA folks, the American Disabilities.
All right, you ready to vote?
Can we read the motion, please?
Madam Clerk, will you read the motion?
To accept the final conceptual layout.
Did you hear that? Yep. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
3-2. All right. Chief Dixon, you tricked me.
Hiding over here.
One of the reasons so good at your job, you're hard to keep up.
That's right. Get sneaky, like Mr. Deeds. So in the police report here this month, we had, I think, about 568 service calls. It's January, pretty normal for us this time of year. If you flip on to the next one, you'll see our incident reports. It's kind of where I started ended last month. We talked about some of the public service announcements with some of the check scams and credit card scams and stuff that was going around. I just wanted to remind everybody that that's what a lot of those reports are that you see on this month or last month's report. And fortunately, I don't think we've taken a lot of those this month, so I'll know more when we get ready to do that. But that's January. And of course, we had a couple of state citations and then several ordinance violations, which was kind of shocking to me to see that many in January. So Not sure what's going on there. I've gotten reports that with the construction on the road going on, I think they've had to move some of the signage and different things like that. So, we're trying to come up with a reasonable way to address that with everybody to let them know that, hey, parking's still, same rules and requirements are still there. So, but we understand that with them working on the road, they're going to have to move some signs and different things like that too. So, be a learning curve for the next couple months while we get through it all. But that's what I got on the police report. If you got questions, comments, or concerns, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you.
Questions, anybody?
No, sir.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
For all you and your staff. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you 10, your staff?
We are not 10. We are 8.5. So we have 8 on staff. The 9th one's paperwork has been submitted to the state. We're waiting on that certification to get back from the state. So until that certification gets back, we won't actually have the 9th on staff. So that's what we're waiting on there. So I say 8.5, but hopefully that one will be back soon. We'll be 9, and then we can start working on number 10.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Evans, Inspections Department.
Good afternoon. Inspection Department, as usual, been very busy. And once again, I won't read every number on the report, but I will read the end report. Active new home permits are 40. Other active permits are 246. Permits issued over 30,000. This month it was 40. Permits issued over 100,000 is 3. Permits issued waiting pickup are 22. And the total permits that we have that we are active at this time is 308. Permits in review right now are 14. CAMA that are in review for issue are 2. Zoning are 15. And permits that were serviced for inspections were 87 for the month. And the total inspections that were made were 254. So that is the inspection report for the month. We're very busy over there, and we're going wide open. So, the board reflects it. Anybody that wants to see what's going on in the town can walk in the inspection department, look just to the left, and we have an active running board. You can see it any time where everything's at. So.
Any questions? Commissioners? If not, thank you and your staff for doing a great job. My phone has rang the least in the last few months that I ever remember.
Yeah,
the complaints I'm getting about you and others.
Well, I appreciate that negative feedback.
Buddy.
All right, number 10.
Nope.
9.
Hold on.
What am I doing?
ADA update.
ADA deal.
Okay.
Okay.
Just keep going till you finish.
Okay, on the ADA update, I guess I'll go through the entire thing, but this is an update on the Key Bridge Foundation agreement. This is the work that we've done and what we're hoping to get done and where we're going with it. We started, this was given to us, I believe, to start implementing it. I want to say where our first start was in May of last year. So on Jordan Boulevard, I'm going to run through it because the first part of these bullets are actually what's in the agreement and then what we've done. It says on Jordan Boulevard, the agreement stipulated we remove the existing ramp and replace with a new section of sidewalk. The town removed the entire parking section and spots, including any adjoining sidewalks. We replaced with new parking area with ADA compliant surfaces and transitioned to the sidewalk section and to the road. B, ensure access from all existing accessible parking spaces. The parking spaces that were there did not have access. The town replaced and restriped all the ADA parking spaces with proper marking and ensured an ADA accessible path to the sidewalk. There was not one available before. C, we provide proper markings and signage. The signage was out of kilter, and even up to today, there was one extra sign that we removed earlier this afternoon. So now the signage has actually been brought into compliance.
Excuse me, Tim, can I just When you go through each one of these, can you just say, so the whole thing is complete, or A is complete, B is complete? It would just be helpful to say, okay, that one is
But-
complete.
You don't want me to read all of it, just say it's complete?
Well, no, you can read it if you want, but
Yeah.
tell us
Well, one
maybe
is-
what's open would
Jordan-
be.
Jordan Boulevard is complete.
Right,
Okay?
great,
114 OBE is not complete.
okay.
All right? In consultation with CAMA, as needed, we were supposed to identify potential compliance surfaces that are firm, stable, and slip resistant to maximum extent given proximity to the blowing sand. And you're going to see that terminology a lot, but staff applied for permits for the installation of pervious concrete to cover from the town's property line to the landward toe of the CAMA funnel dune. We were granted that, and we did it. B, we make agreed upon improvements. Staff retained surveyors to complete and provide maps with topography capabilities, and staff removed as much material as possible and contracted for the installation of approximately 3,000 square feet of pervious concrete, the maximum allowed by the NCDEQ permit. Install signage and markings. We rearranged the markings and the stripes. We were, even after we made the accessible parking spaces, not only did we make them better to get to, but we actually increased the number of parking spaces, which I didn't think we'd be able to do, but we did. What's left at 114 OBE is in Part 3. We were supposed to replace the current handrails. I mean, we did replace the current handrails, I'm sorry. And they were removed, the ones that were there, and we replaced them with A117.1 Section 4 and 5, and they were installed. 114 OBE, the ramp, we improved the transition from the mat to eliminate existing dip areas of sand accumulation. Staff recognized map orientation, design, type, and location. B, we extended the map to the maximum NCDEQ permitted length, but that was one of our requirements, and the map was permitted under rule to 6 feet beyond the last line of natural stable vegetation. It was part of the CAMA permit. We add seating to eliminate blocking access, and seating areas were established. Up until the day, one of the seating areas that got covered up because of sand, it got uncovered today, and we added an additional seating area on the left-hand side today. What's missing, I don't think I included it somewhere, I may have, but what's missing is the bathrooms at 114 OBE. We were required to get a modification because of the frontal dune and the frontal dune location. We are still waiting on that modification. We had a problem with an adjoining property owner accepting the letter so that we could get CAMA approval. It is my understanding that we're close to getting that approval, but I can't guarantee it 100%. Well,
But that part's not on the,
I think I somewhere in the report I put it in there. If not, I'll go back through it. All right.
so wait, can I just say, can we go back? So 2, 3, and 4 are complete.
We have three and 4 are complete.
Okay. Applied for permits for the installation of, that's still
Well,
open.
I'm going through the agreement, and the agreement didn't talk about bathrooms until it got further down into the agreement. The agreements for bathrooms at 114 OBE and in other areas was actually, I think, number 7. Yes,
Yeah,
it's on number 7, so I'll talk about those when I get there.
Okay, so are 2, 3, and 4 complete?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
Tim, one of the things that was asked was, you said you've got the mat to the maximum permitted length. It was mentioned to put a mat to the side to allow somebody.
That's the seating area.
That's
That's what
okay.
I'm saying when we do the
Okay, I
seating
just want to
area.
make sure, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, 5 was East End parking. I just combined 5 because it was the way it was written. But, did I do the bottom part? Yeah, okay. East End beach access, we explore options for procuring town access to expand accessible parking for the East End beach area. Surveys and plans were developed for access and a Hatteras wrap for the East End. In consultation with CAMA as needed, identify potential ADA compliant services that are firm, stable, slip resistant to maximum extent possible, given the proximity to blowing sand. Staff acquired all permits necessary for the installation of an ADA handicap ramp, 5 feet wide, 125 plus or minus feet long, to meet all requirements of the ADA 117.1. The installation of the approximately 5,200 square feet of pervious non-slip surface and emergency access. Bathrooms have been designated and sealed for construction. The bathrooms at that location are actually on the permit. So we got, it's further away from the frontal dune. C, make agreed upon surface improvements, plans and layout show pervious non-slip area, install proper signs, additional parking to be striped with access routes, and ADA compliant transition with proper signage. We're expecting that the bathrooms will go in a location that best fits the ramp and run locations. So until we get those built, we won't be able to lay out the parking areas exactly, but we will end up with more ADA parking than we had before with accessible routes. Accessible restrooms, this is it. It says provide accessible restrooms at 114 OBE and East End. It says the town has approved bathrooms for Avenue E, but are still trying to get approval from NCDEQ for the 114 OBE modifications. And we may have to apply for a variance. It depends on whether they issue us the permit or not. So 114 OBE is completely done with everything that we are allowed to do by CAMA, but we are attempting to get the bathrooms. Okay, so that's 700 block, they're done. It says in consultation with CAMA is needed to identify compliance services for the maximum extent possible, and site was evaluated. We had CAMA come out and evaluate the site. Make the agreed upon surface improvements. A parking area was established. A hard non-slip surface was put in place for the transition to the public way. Install proper signage and markings. New signage and striping in compliance with A117.1 is installed. 801 OBW. 801 was to explore options for establishing an access path that is firm, stable, and slip resistant, and staff is developing a plan that establishes a firm, stable, and slip resistant path designed and engineered by McGill and Associates. The area also required a retaining wall. NCDEQ approved plans including designs for stormwater retention and non-slip pervious surface with access matting out beyond the last line of natural stable vegetation, and that staff intends to present bid packages in the fall. Pier parking lot. Extend the mat from the hard surface to the beach. Mat has been extended. Extend mat to the maximum allowed by NCDEQ. Mat has been extended to the maximum allowed. So it is my understanding that the pier parking lot to the left, our intentions is we'll make some decision in the future as to whether we want to try to use our new facility that we've put on the right-hand side. There's an issue with handicap parking on the left-hand side. So we're talking to partners in the mediation agreement about that. But right now, we only have the rollout mats on the left-hand side, but I think it is our intention to put some hard mats out there soon and have the seating areas on both sides there as well. But the town needs to really consider closing that side because we have no frontal dune on that side. There's no frontal dune on the
The
left
east
hand.
side.
Yep, on the east side. You just have to see it and you'll know it. We could have a breach there pretty easy. But the new walkway was not part of the mediation agreement. It was something that was in place prior to it. C, we were supposed to add options for the wheelchair seating at the end, and I just told you we're going to try to get those out there as soon as we can. ADA compliant initiatives not on the agreement, and these are important. Walkway at 915 was replaced. We replaced it with a 170-foot long compliant walkway with new transitions and matting located at the end. ADA compliant handrails is required by A117.1 and American with Disabilities standards. 441 walkway OBW. Right now we have a 143-foot long ADA ramp. It's 6 feet wide and cross-sectional with width and complying with A17.1 standards. The handrails also comply. There's a smooth transition upon completion. There will be new access routes with approved parking and proper signage. But we've got to go out there and assess the parking area. But when the board approved that, they wanted to make sure that we put it in an area where we could get good handicap parking with good access routes, and that's why we chose that location. So we're going to be moving some of those handicap parking spaces that way. We just got to see where they work best for the access routes. And we're going to have to do that before we open the ramp, because you got to have them in place. You can't, the ramp's got to be there. You got to have handicap parking space to serve it. So that's why it's boarded up and it's not open right now. And the very end of it, we have approval to go out beyond the last line of natural stable vegetation, but that vegetation doesn't stop where you think it does. It doesn't go all the way out. It stops short of the last place you can go. But we do have modification approval to get on out there. So, and we have a preemptive approval that we can get an extension. This is my hope that we will have an ability to get people in a wheelchair much further out than on the dry sand and where we have them at all of our other locations. So that's actually a goal of mine, and we've had a lot of conversations about it. So once we get it out there as far as it can go, we were going to apply for the modification to take it further, because it was on the original plan. So the next thing is Halstead Park. Halstead Park was actually in the budget last year before the mediation agreement ever came up, along with 441. So the town was already was working towards some ADA compliance. Parking places at Halstead were reconfigured with and repainted and resurfaced to comply with A117.1, compliance guidelines, new signage, and access routes with transition to sidewalks. And Halstead still has a handrail issue, and I'm assuming that we'll deal with that as soon as we can.
Tim, 11, 12, and 13 on here, just want to make sure we've got them covered. So 11 is the point person, I assume that's you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the board is ultimately responsible to make sure we fulfill our obligations?
Well, I mean, you have to, that might be a question for the attorney.
Okay,
Yeah.
I assume.
But I mean, you got a mediation agreement, it was
Signed by-
signed and approved by the town representative.
Okay.
But you got an obligation, you got both a legal obligation and a moral obligation under ADA, you know what I mean, to comply with the rules. And a lot of these things were cleaned up. There were things that, like 114 was built. 114 has a set of stairs. It's an ADA ramp with a set of stairs.
Okay.
So some of the stuff was built, and it just never really complied. And since the day I got here, anytime we were replacing or repairing one like the pavilion, we brought them into compliance. This is not a bad thing. This is a really good thing for the town. It's really good.
Now, number 12 was, the overall deadline is March of 2025.
That's right.
So are we on track for that? Are we going to need an extension, or?
Well, it depends on how fast y'all approve the project. We're on track. We have everything pretty much shovel ready. I think, Christie, when's the bids are due back for Avenue E this Friday?
February 26th, Monday.
Monday,
Okay.
yeah.
So we don't have anything on our plate right now to approve? Is that okay?
No, we just met with her.
Okay.
And remember, she had, the people going in the meetings, we had all decided that we would try to avoid the busiest times of the year. 801, I think, is going to be a challenge, so we're not going to try to undertake it. It's ready to go. It's shovel ready, but we're not going to try to undertake that project until after summer.
Good.
It's down there in the 800 block. It's going to require some work because we're actually turning the Hatteras ramp into Hatteras ramp and ADA compliant at the same time.
So
We don't have
Chris-
enough room for both.
Christie, would that be something you would try to put into one of the budget meetings? If you get it on the.
I'll answer that. The money for all of the ADA mediation requirements is in the current budget. There was an appropriation, so the money exists. In answer to the question, what's required of the board, the requirement for the board will be to roll over into the next budget year that portion of the budget, which is the one project at the 800 block that we anticipate will not be finished before the end of this fiscal year.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the last one was the quarterly meetings, which we are having.
Yes,
Okay.
we haven't missed any quarterly meetings. And she gets updated.
Okay.
They're updated. I looked through today.
Tim, I'd like to thank you for knocking all this stuff out. This isn't in your normal purview, you and staff. It sounds like you've done an outstanding job. And just to be clear, we've addressed everything in the agreement, correct?
Absolutely.
And then some.
And then some.
Super job.
Yeah. But
Thank you.
You got to give credit to Christie and David and just about everybody in the town has to, Public Works, everybody in the town has had to chip in.
Absolutely. You guys have done a great job. Thanks.
All right.
Number 10.
I want to go home. All right. This is one that is near and dear to my heart. I always like correcting ordinances. Sometime back, I can't remember how far back, but at some point in time, the Board of Commissioners tasked the staff with looking into a change that was not created by a town or by the town staff. It was created by a North Carolina Building Code Council amendment that changed the definition of accessory structures. And what this does is this effectively, the planning board reviewed it. We brought some changes to it. The planning board actually changed them a little bit, and they came up with this idea. And what this does is basically bring our ordinance back in line with exactly like it was prior to the North Carolina Building Code Council changing the definition of accessory structure. So by doing so, and it also helps us, give us an opportunity to clean up the definitions, which we catch them every once in a while. But in this particular case, we have an ordinance that says you can't have an accessory structure without the primary use. Prior to that, our ordinance had defined accessory structure, but then when the North Carolina Building Code Council amended accessory structures, the building code requires permit issuance to be an administrative code, which would energize 160D1110, which says that me or Terry cannot issue a building permit in violation of state law or any local law. So when it did that, when they changed the definition, although we could issue a zoning permit, but we could not issue a building permit because of the actual literal word of the definition. So what this does, by exempting those items that got added into accessory structure, we take our ordinance and we put it back just like it was before they made the changes for us. That's the best way I can put it. Now, what we had before was you could have a pier, a dock, or a floating dock without a primary structure. After they changed the definition at the state level, you could not, because they defined, that had never been defined before, piers, docks, and boat lifts as being accessory structures to the primary use. So the town wishes to not have accessory structures such as piers and docks and boat lifts or anything else without the primary structure, then they simply don't have to make any change except for maybe to the definition. But this is what we were asked to bring forward. There was debate, and so I think we brought an ordinance back that reflects what the board that asked us to do this requested.
Bulkheads, I'm a little, are they in the definition now?
The bulkheads are a note to me.
Okay.
And let me, when I say this, I don't want to get tomatoes thrown at me or nothing, but let me go ahead and tell you this. The reason they changed the definition was because in their infinite wisdom, the North Carolina Building Code Council, based off of, I'm assuming, political pressure from Lake Norman and other places, decided to exempt piers, docks, and boat lifts from the code. It was like, they made like 4 pages that if you met any of those criteria, those 4 pages, you were exempt. And so what happened was that the way I interpreted that was that if they made it that, they were exempt. And so what we did was we said, well, that's fine, they're exempt. But if you attach them to the bulkhead, they're part of the bulkhead, and now they're not exempt. Now, for anybody who thinks that we shouldn't have done that, I want you to think about somebody walking out on one of those piers and docks when they were exempted. They're not now. Because me and several other chief building officials wrote some pretty heavy letters to NCBOI to get them to change it. And we worked with Cliff Isaacs and Carl Martin, and it got changed. When they changed it is when they changed the definition. So they went overboard to fix it. But what we did here in the town was, so we wouldn't have children falling off the docks and piers, We said if it's attached to the bulkhead, then it's not a dock and a pier, you know what I mean? It's definitely attached to the property and to the accessory structure, so you had to get a permit and you had to follow the guidelines, because it wasn't exempted in the building code. So that's a note from me to myself as to what we were doing. So you could get one prior to 2018, or between 2018 and 2021, you could have a pier and a dock and a bulkhead, and if you didn't attach it to the bulkhead, then there wasn't really nothing we could do. And you could, I can almost go out there and find every one of them. The bulkhead people, they had figured it out. So they were just going out there and putting them in on a weekend. All they had to do was get a camera permit and go put them in. So what this does is clean it up. It puts it back like it was prior. You can have them again, but you've got to get a building permit now because none of them are exempt. The Building Code Council exempted them all. They X'd out all 4 pages of the code, and they added piers and docks and boat lifts to the accessory structure definition. So that's where we're at.
So bulkhead was never an accessory structure?
No, bulkhead is like a retaining wall.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And bulkheads, well, see, this is another thing too. I mean, this gets really complicated. This is not in the residential code. Bulkheads and piers and docks are now in the North Carolina Building Code, come out of chapter 36. That's how they cleaned it up. They made it, they went from one extreme to the other. Now you gotta have an engineer and all this other stuff to do those things. So, it's very complicated, but the way it went down. So what we had was, we had people who were actually after the amendment, if they built a dock or pier, they were building it in violation of our ordinance. Our ordinance didn't include it. So now this takes it back to where it was.
Okay. Sorry for all the questions, but
That's
it's
fine.
confusing
That's
for me.
fine.
So you can build, you have to build a bulkhead without a primary structure.
You have to build a bulkhead. We have a town ordinance that says if
For
you don't have a
canal.
bulkhead, especially on the canals, we're gonna send you a letter and we'll fine you if we can't get you to comply.
Okay, same for marshes and intercoastal waterway.
Well, now marshes are retaining walls and they're different. But the canal, we have a canal ordinance that says if you're on the canal, you gotta have a bulkhead.
Okay, but
Yeah.
if bulkheads are not accessory structures, then there's no, you can have them without having a primary structure. It's just the
That's
accessory
right.
structures.
That's right. They're
Okay.
retaining walls. Some of them don't even have to, they're not even mentioned in the building code, like for residential building code, based off of height and
Okay.
unbalanced field.
Okay.
Maybe you've got more weight on one side than you do the other.
Okay, so bulkheads are out. This change will allow you to have a dock, a pier, a boat ramp without having a primary structure?
That's right. But you couldn't have like a outbuilding or garage or.
A shed.
Shed, you can't have a shed.
I had a shed.
Yeah.
Jim made me take it down.
Yeah. So
Call
you
it my
can't-
shed quarters.
Yeah. So,
Good.
anyway.
Any more questions or comments from the commissioners? All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, motion to accept the ordinance change?
Madam Clerk, would you read the verbiage?
Thank you.
Can I add, there's also the consistency statement that
Well-
needs to be, is that okay to put them both together?
Yeah, well, you need to consider the consistency statement before you vote on it. That's basically the same consistency statement that I just retitled it, that went to the planning board. They have to review it too. By law, you have to consider it. You just have to say that you, in your motion, that you consider the consistency statement.
Madam Clerk, will you read back what they're supposed to be considering?
I would say, and Tim can yell at me if I'm wrong, sorry, I just lost my page. Approval of the consistency statement and then ordinance 2401. I think would work for me, if that would work for you.
That works for me.
Okay, does that satisfy you?
Yes, sir, it
All right,
does.
Who's going to do a second?
Second.
All right, Doctor seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Wait, I need to discuss. Sorry. I guess I just have I have an issue with allowing the boats on empty lots. Mainly, it's consistency with the residential, I mean, if it's a residentially zoned neighborhood, it should be residential properties. And this change would allow empty lots with nothing but boats on ramps.
If you got an empty lot, this change would, back prior to 2018, before the 2018 code cycle, then, yes. And up to 2021, depending on how, you could either have a permitted or an unpermitted boat pier or boat lift, okay?
Yeah.
Without the primary structure. It's been that way for a long time.
I understand, I guess I just have
But if you
an
vote
issue.
for this, you're going back to the way you were before, you can have, you can have a boat lift, a dock, a floating dock, and a pier, you know, without the primary structure.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, to me, if you have a primary residence, in residential area, you can have an accessory structure, have a boat dock. But to allow a whole block to be nothing but boat docks is kind of more like a marina than a residential neighborhood. So I'm, I guess, opposed to that.
Where's the whole lot?
Well, the zoning would allow it. I'm not saying it exists. There could be if there's one of these developed. But the zoning would be inconsistent with a residential if you're going to allow it to be all boat docks and without houses.
My opinion is if you spend that much money on a lot and you will have a boat and you want to leave it there while you're working on building your new house, then I think you should be able to do it. Pay for the property, you pay for the right to have a boat.
I think building the house is one thing, but if, you know, you never have a house, you just have I think it introduces issues. It enhances, I mean, the probability of having commercial businesses from there. I understand Ocean Isle's got problems with all kinds of commercial businesses. You can have RVs sitting there. I mean, you're opening the door to allow things that you don't want.
Yeah, what we do here, because it was already, we already had it, we have a policy, internal policy that only allows for electrical service so big, because usually if you have the dock, you got a boat lift, you got to have electrical service. So we try to limit the electrical service and what's on those electrical services to keep those things from happening. But that doesn't stop it from being an attractive nuisance. But if you're going to have that and people break the rules, you know what I mean, then they're probably going to break the rules anyway. And from a planning standpoint, I would never recommend that you have accessory structures without the primary structure. That's just across the board. You will find that everywhere. But that's only because it creates those kinds of problems that you're talking about. But most of the time, bad behavior is hard to regulate. You know what I mean? We talk about it a lot over there in zoning. You know, you can't regulate bad. We can write all the rules we want. They won't break the rules. They're going to break them. So if somebody's selling pizza from a vacant lot with a pier, that's no more out of compliance in my mind than if they sell it with the house there. You see what I'm saying? It's still a rule broke. If someone wants to run a charter business from there, that's a rule broke. We've actually had that happen before. My point, what I'm saying is that we're always going to have work. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we have had charter boats that do it from those, and we have to send them letters, and we have to monitor them and stop them. But you know, if it ain't them, it'll be somebody else. It just gives us time to find somebody else.
I hear you. I'll just say it one last time, adverse effects, and I don't know that it enhances a residential neighborhood to allow that, so.
Any more comments? Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, no.
4-1, Madam Clerk. Okay, we turn the page. Number 12. Mr. Myers, Mr. Parfus.
Yeah, this was, I put possible action. I don't know that we need to take action. The intent here was just to make sure that we were all on the same page and ready for the public input session on the pier scheduled for the 29th. The only thing I saw that we probably need to make sure we do is there's some additional items, Heather, that need to go on the website that are called out in the packet, but I don't think they're up there. The plan that was developed, the approved plan by the board from January of '22, and then the site plans and design drawings that are from the architect. So I'm hoping we can get those up on the website, and then everything should be available.
I think they should be up unless it didn't go through, but if I didn't hit save or publish, I did put them on there the other
Okay.
day.
And we'll have hard copies available at the session, and the architect is, I don't know if he's by himself or he's bringing people, but he'll be there to answer questions.
Correct.
Okay. So the intent was to make it very similar to the one that went on for Sailfish Park, which was kind of, come and go, have the architect, have the plans, have at least some copies of all the documents, allow people to read all the background, have all the material, ask their questions, and then we would solicit public input on probably pieces of paper and have the architect summarize them, report them back. So
We're going to make sure that the comments have their name and address on them, Heather? A spot for that?
Yep, if that's what the board would like, not a problem at all. Name and address, but
Is the public gonna be able to speak?
Nobody's
No.
speaking.
No,
It's just like Sailfish, where you come in and you ask questions from the architect and make your comments on a piece of paper. We're not speaking, we're not having a real meeting.
yeah, it's not a BOC meeting. So, I mean, that is the objective of this, is to make sure we address any issues that need to be addressed ahead of the session and make sure everybody we're all on the same page with regards to what we're doing, why we're doing it. No action?
So you finished at number 12?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, number 13. We've done that.
I'd care not to relive that,
You don't
thank
want to
you.
go through that again? I just want to give you a second chance.
I'm good.
All right, 14. Mr. Parfus, Ms. Thomas?
Well, we need to get a permanent attorney on board. There is a request for proposals, I guess, in the package. People have comments on it. I guess now's the time to make them. This is, as I understand it, is the same RFP we've used in the past.
So I just had one comment on number 9, where it says supervises the acquisition. I don't know if we want to add and sale of real estate property interest for the town, or would that fall under number 10?
Why don't you just strike the two words acquisition of, and then it reads supervision of real property interest, and that would blanket cover everything
Sounds
that the
good.
board could like to do.
I'm okay with that. Is everybody okay with that? And then on the page 63, we have to have a date. So, I mean, I would propose as soon as possible that it goes out, unless anybody's opposed to that. We would direct staff to send this out.
Everybody understand the change
Yes.
or changes? Is it the consensus of the board to send it out?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So ordered, Madam
Yeah,
Clerk.
Well,
Hang on.
we
Gotta have
we
a
don't need a
date.
date to send it out. We need a date
Oh.
that you guys want it back by.
Oh,
how
okay.
long do you want me to have it out for?
I don't know, what do you usually do?
3 or 4 weeks?
Right,
4
I'd say by
weeks.
March 31st.
By March?
Sounds good.
That works for
sure.
everybody.
Yep, that's good.
March 31st it is.
Okay, are we through with number 14?
Yep.
All right, 15. Mayor Holden and Dr. Dyer, in regards to the Holden Beach Fishing Pier Easter Sunrise, which is a tradition as long as I can remember. Um, Basically, the Holden Beach Chapel is requesting permission to walk up the walkway, not all the way out to the end of the pier, but traditionally walk a short distance on the pier, and the people attending the service will be on the east side of the pier on the strand level, sitting in the sand in their chairs or on their blankets, whatever, and conduct the service from the pier while the people conducting the service are over sand. They're not going to be out over the water. So just a formality as in the past, because the working relationship the town has always had with the chapel sharing their each facilities the way they have in the past, trying to go through the proper channels to get approval and communicate with the town in regards to their request. They're simply asking to be allowed to do that again this year as in the past. I'm hoping that we can get a positive vote or a consensus to allow the annual Easter service, sunrise service to take place at the pier.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow the chaplain of the Holden Beach Chapel to conduct the annual Easter sunrise service from the pier.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one question. Mr. Evans, any safety concerns with that?
Not just one person. I don't think it'd be an issue at all, just for one person to access the first part of that pier where they're talking to. I don't think that's a problem. We're talking about replacing it, but I don't think there's an issue there. And I'm certainly, my mom is certainly not going to let me tell somebody they can't go out and do an Easter Sunday service. Now, if y'all ever want to see me again. So,
Duly noted.
yeah.
Well, to be correct, I don't want to promise there's just going to be one person there.
There was 2 last year.
I mean, the choir's not going to be out there, but
Well, it can handle the loading of.
as in the past.
Yeah, as in the past.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem.
Okay.
I've been on it more than once. Actually gonna go on it again tomorrow. I think there's a problem. I'll let them know.
Well, you can
Okay.
walk on it the day before, and as long as it's still standing, we'll put the preacher out there.
We've had several people.
Okay.
So I'd just like to ask our lawyer if there's a liability issue with that, since it is closed.
Like Mr. Evans just said, the number of people is going to be something to consider. I would request that each person that will be standing on the pier structure sign a waiver of liability, just to make sure everyone is covered. It's a very basic statement saying if something happens, they're not going to sue the town over it, and they understand the current state and situation of it. But I would do that even if the pier was in great shape. So that's just my personal, or not personal, professional opinion.
Okay, who's going to prepare that document?
Our lawyer?
She's got it, I think.
Yeah, if I'm still interim attorney, I can do it, or someone else can do it.
We'd need that by tomorrow or the next day.
All right, if
Yeah.
y'all want to pay overtime hours, we can do that. I can still pull an all-nighter.
Well, because I'm thinking that if it's approved, that the chapel's gonna need to advertise and stuff like that, so, yeah,
You need it by the end of the week, truly?
that'd be fine.
Okay.
All right, consensus, does the board agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right,
I guess we had a motion and a second.
we had a motion and a second. I can get consensus, but if you want to vote, that's all right. We don't want to do anything wrong. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Public comments about anything you want to talk about, if you'll come up here. 3 minutes, speak in the microphone, give us your name. 3 minutes.
Will Carter, 108 Starfish Drive. I hate to blurt it out, but according to the 2024 census, 28462 now has 18,000 people. That's 6,000 people. That's a 30% increase. Brunswick County as a whole had like 14.4 or 7. And so in 28462, we had a 30% increase. That's 6,000 more people, and they're living in 5,771 houses out of the close to, I don't know, Mayor Holden, is it more than 13,000 structures in 28462 now?
I have no idea.
Well,
I'll take
according to the
your word for it.
demographics, you can go to postal records demographics. That's how many we've got. And like I say, if you multiply those 4,000 people, 7,000 houses, 2,000 are on the beach, 5,000 are over there, times 4 people, and we know some of them hold 20, right? Some of them might not have any, but that's 28,000 people a week on top of the 18,000 people that are already here. So we need to plan for the future. And as far as the pier goes and everything, we need to find funding for a new community center and a new pier, a concrete pier. As a matter of fact, they're tearing down one in San Diego right now, concrete pier on Ocean Beach in San Diego. That concrete pier has lasted 100 years. And the ones that they're building now out of concrete, they say 50, 60 easy. So rather than, my son's back here, he's 26 years old. And so in 20 years, when we're all not here, and actually he's lived here on the beach longer than anybody on this, behind the desk except Mayor Holden. And he's going to be here in 20 years. And I don't want to give him a pig with lipstick on it to try and fix again. And it'll cost 10 times more. And if anybody wants to sell me their property that they bought 10 years ago, I'd be happy to buy it at that price. But we build a pier now that's going to last for a while. It's going to serve 500,000 people, and that's numbers today. That's not numbers in 10 years. But we need to fix the infrastructure around here to take care of the load of people that call this their amusement park that live in 28462. And I'd like the board to pay attention to that. Look for funding, look for the infrastructure funding, look for help with underserved communities like 28462. And I'd like anybody listening online that's big on social media. I don't do it at all. But please talk about 28462 and all the people, not just on the island, but in 28462 that need a boat ramp over on the other side of the bridge. They need parking, satellite parking, and a shuttle to the beach. We don't have any more property. They're not making any more. We can't stretch the beach. And at $1 million an acre, and that's a conservative estimate, we have to do something. So we need to ask the state and federal government for grants to take care of all these people. If you live here or if you live here, when you talk to your neighbor from out of town, you tell them call your local representative and call your local representative and tell them you need help, that we need help at 28462 and Holden Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Jenkins. I'm at 359 Ocean Boulevard West. And I got a quick comment. I'm kind of new to this, and I'm learning about it right now. And as I understand it, you're not going to allow comments next week when we're discussing the pier. Well, I object to that. After seeing what the group on Starfish did, making all of their comments, I'd like to know why the people that are pushing for the pier can't make their comments.
We're going to allow written comments.
Written comments?
Yes.
And
That's
you'll
what
be-
we're soliciting, written comments at the
Written
meeting.
comments.
Yeah.
So, and we just prepare them in advance and give them to you at the meeting? Is that?
The architect will be there. You can ask questions of him, and there will be a comment sheet that you'll fill out, and you can fill it out front and back.
Okay, point of order, there can't be interaction between the board and...
Thank you,
Oh,
sir. You're correct.
I'm new to this. Sorry about that.
Me too.
But that's what I meant to say.
See the clerk, she'll get you the correct procedure.
Good. Thank you.
The lady at the end here. All right, anybody else want to speak? All right.
I hate to do it, I'm gonna be real quick. It's Brent Shaver again, 121 Tarpon. I don't want people that are listening or people that know about this meeting some other way. I don't think the Holden Beach people are hard-hearted people or ugly people. And I think I commend the town for all what they've done and are still doing to be ADA compliant and make that work. As far as Sailfish is concerned, the town down there now has got picnic tables that are open at the end for a wheelchair to go right up underneath it. I don't think I'm unique. I use the park a lot, but it's just not unusual to see somebody in a wheelchair down there at those picnic tables for fishing. So it's not like that we're walling off the area that people in a wheelchair can't go there. Thanks.
Thank you. Harry, you moved on me. Okay.
Keith Smith, 105 Durham, and can I use a prop? Just to be clear, on this, on the 29th, this is what we're gonna make comments on, and I know we can't talk back and forth, that's my understanding. Yet it's also my understanding, this is the plan that you guys, sorry. I can't plan that y'all did away with. So my question is, what are we actually gonna be talking about on the 29th? Just what we want in general? Because we're, in Sailfish, they had these up in the room, 2 of them, and everybody showed up and say, hey, I like this, I don't like this. The gentleman sat here and talked about it. He said, hey, you know, you could do away with this, and this is why we did this based on these concepts. The problem is, this is a dead plan. It's completely dead based on the vote that you guys had 3-2. Now, I am encouraged. Tonight, you had 2 different votes. You had other votes. And some of them were 3-2, but near the end, it became 4-1, and then it became 5-0. And so, I mean, I think there's hope for us, and my hope is, well, I don't know what my hope is, because if this is not the plan, what are we doing? What are,
Give your input out of their plan.
that's not what they said. What they said, and I know we can't talk, I'm sorry.
Can't
What-
have interaction.
Right. But what they've said is this plan is dead. Well, technically, they said there was no plan, no business plan was what they clarified later. But if this is not the plan, there's still nothing for us to comment on. Now, I can come up with a lot of stuff to say, but it's going to be scattered, because if you want public input on this, at least put it, you still have a few minutes to do commissioner comments and things of that nature. And maybe you could clarify that for us and go, yes, this is the plan we want you to look at, and depending on the amount of plans we come, maybe we'll open and reconsider this plan so we don't have to start all over. So just maybe some clarification on my end. What are we going to be looking at the 29th? If this is not the plan, what are we coming to look at? Or just throw out ideas. And that's fine if we're just going to scatterbrain and, you know, buckshot some ideas. That's great. At least we know where we're coming from. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else want to say anything about anything? Yes, sir.
I'm Rick McInturf, 122 Frigate. Just kind of follow up on that. I left our last meeting just totally confused. And I've not become more unconfused since that meeting. I know we took bids for the refurbishment of the pier, and they came in too high. I get that. They were way too high, and they didn't need to be approved, and they got turned down appropriately so. Then we heard that there might be an alternative methodology for setting those pilings. And the option was given to go out and find out at least what that would cost, to at least know, see if it was better, worse, or whatever. And that option was turned down as well. I walked out the door totally confused. And now, just like Keith said, we're looking at a plan that's already kind of been discussed. And so I'm going to come on the 29th. I hope I learned something. I hope I give some input, but I'm still confused.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else want to speak about anything? You can even say something nice. Anyone else? Last call. All right, thank you very much. Comments? Town manager's report, number 17 on the agenda.
Yes, sir. I've provided a update paper in the packages, page 65, and I won't belabor reading that. I think I can summarize, and if the board's got questions on that, be glad to entertain the details of it on questions, follow up. Suffice it to say, the EPA grant that we've applied for the sewer lift station 2, Greensboro, it was approved, that funding was approved, and our work plan back in December officially. So Daniel's been working with the EPA representatives to set up our accounting system, which is basically it's a rapid turnaround whenever we receive invoices. Looking at what we've been told is that will be a 3 to 4 day period. The milestone schedule that we're working with is basically having construction completed by July of 25 with system startup in October of 25. Also have some time in there for EPA's closeout on the project, with final closeout being November of 26. The state funding, which is $1.9 million through the state budget, we have received the letter of intent to fund from the state last Friday, a week ago. So we're trying to get in contact with the program manager to clarify some items. One in particular is the fact that the timeline we've been provided seems to present that the dates are a not to exceed date. And it's important because those not to exceed dates don't exactly match with our approved work plan in the EPA timeline, i.e. it's a year off. It lags a year behind the EPA grant, and that's not going to work for us, so we're trying to get clarification with the thinking that those are not to exceed dates, and we should be able to mesh those two time frames together. That's what we hope is the issue. If not, then that's another set of circumstances we're going to have to deal with. So we're requesting clarification about just exactly what that state schedule says and to advance it in order to accommodate our EPA funding and the shovel-ready project status that we have with Greensboro Lift Station 2. So one of the requirements before we can accept that funding is that the board's going to have to officially accept it. So we're going to have to get those details nailed down before we bring that resolution of acceptance back to the board. Those two numbers added together are right at close to $4.6, $4.7 million. The bids, as you're aware, were above that amount that we had in our budget, and so we didn't do the project. So we do not know what the bids will be when they come in, which won't be too far out. So we may have to go for a third-party financing. A third component, which is short-term borrowing, since the state funding for the state appropriation mentions that the costs are done on a reimbursement basis, i.e. leading us to believe we got to front the money and then get reimbursed back. So we believe that we've got, if that is the case, and we should know inside of about 45 to 60 days what the engineer's estimate for the price of the project will be. This go around, if we have to go for short-term financing, then we're going to have to factor in the requirements for that calendar and the related efforts that'll have to be coordinated so that we can get before the local government commission and submit the appropriate application prior to doing that. Suffice it to say, we've been in contact with the bond attorney and financial advisors. In addition to Mr. Green, who is moving ahead with prepping the bid package And we are thinking that in about 60 days is the window that we'll need to pass before we're ready to advertise. The next steps, we got to get the state pinned down on our questions about the calendar. Y'all have to accept the funding from the state, and then we're going to have to rebid the project because those old bids aren't any good. And then, of course, coordinate the bid tab with the state, and then all of the elements come together for the bid award. That's the lift station update. I have some other updates too, but that one's kind of stand on its own. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Just wanted to say thank you, I appreciate that update.
No problem. Moving on to personnel, Tim's got a new permit specialist on board at the front office over there, Kimberly Bowman. As Jeremy mentioned before, the police are recruiting hard to fill one vacancy and are awaiting the state's transfer of the offered candidate's certification to Holden Beach for the second vacancy. In admin, there's an upcoming vacancy at the front desk starting Friday, so we're going to be looking for a receptionist at the front desk. Regarding the coastal storm risk management study, we've made our application for the North Carolina Division of Water Resources $750,000 in the state budget for Holden Beach to contribute to the town's CSRM study. That'll be our contribution match. And the important thing out of that is that the Corps program manager and the state point of contact are communicating on how those funds will transpire, will flow. And at this point in time, that flow will not hit our books. It'll go from the state to the Corps. That is what we believe is the circumstance now. We still believe that this $750,000 and the pending federal Disaster Recovery Act, Relief Act money will negate the need for any further town money. However, due to the current federal budget impasse, the Corps may have to set their pencils down after April until the Treasury funds flow to the Corps in the current budget year. They have an appropriation, but the budget impasse is holding their funding up. Regarding canal dredging, lowest bid came in at $189,000 for a 2,700 cubic yard bucket to barge project in Harbor Acres. That was awarded to TD Ure, which is made by the board contingent upon getting our final Corps approval. Our water quality, North Carolina water quality cert is hand, and we believe we're going to be in a position by the end of the week to make those, to make that award. We believe that'll be coming in. Along those lines, that project is being partially paid for, or more than partially paid for, with a North Carolina DWR grant, and that's a 75-25 split. And again, the contract execution for the apparent, or the company that the board awarded the contract on is also contingent on the final Corps approval being obtained. So we won't be executing the grant contract until we get a permit to move ahead. On the stormwater project partnership agreement, the town staff has met with the Corps program manager to give him some help in developing a draft project partnership agreement. What we're seeing and believing is that we anticipate that the PPA is going to bring forward 5 or 6 stormwater projects that are coming in somewhere slightly below $2 million. And it'll probably be another 2 weeks for the Corps to get their rough draft, and then approximately 2 months to staff out or get the approvals from the town and the Corps of Engineers. The intent here is to position the town to receive federal stormwater funding through the 5113 program. Ocean Boulevard resurfacing, my attempt at giving a current status fails miserably because those guys are really moving along. You know, at one point there's a mile a day, and every time somebody comes in, it seems like they've moved a mile up the street. So the story that we're still, it's my belief in what I see that they're making good progress, but the story that we're getting is that it's still going to be Memorial Day before it's all finished, or before Memorial Day. Condition of the beach strand. We've gone ahead and initiated some rock raking from the pier down to the 800 block based on the bashing from the winter storms. There's quite a bit of detritus and refuse out there. We wanted to go ahead and get that picked up. Our efforts to do so preemptively recently were praised by the regulatory agencies, and we have been informed that once we finish that little bit of rock raking up on this effort, that our notice of violation for rocks on the beach will be lifted upon getting that work done. Even though we're going to have our notice of violation lifted from the project, we still have the 3-year tilling requirement that's in our permit to manage, and we'll just have to deal with that as it comes up. Lastly, but not least, the East End Lockwood Folly Maintenance Crossing Project. I understand that they're scheduled to mobilize this week. They may have even started setting equipment off on the East End. The dredge Lexington will be used through, it'll probably be here the latter part of this week also, and then start up beginning of next week through the end of March, and depositing 100,000 cubic yards of beach compatible, plus yards of beach compatible sand on the east end. And historically, whenever people ask me, well, where's it going? How far is it going to go? It normally starts about Amazing Grace, which is the last house on the east end, and then stretches back toward Blockade Runner. Sometimes it reaches Blockade Runner, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, the volumes on dredging are, today it's 30% and tomorrow it's 60%. So from Amazing Grace back west as far as it can go, probably to the Blockade Runner, Blockade, is that the right name? Blockade Runner Street. That's all I have.
Any questions? If not, the mayor's report's gonna be really brief. Just a point of interest here. I doubt if anybody in the room knows who Jack Smurl was. See a hand or two. Jack Smurl has gone on to be in a better place than Holden Beach, the only place that's better than Holden Beach. But his widow sent me an email, and Jack Smurl owned a house here in the early 40s. And I doubt there's anybody in the room that can claim that they were here before Jack. So that goes back a long ways. But anyway, she sent me an email, and I don't know how old she is, but she's a lovely lady. There's still a lot of experienced owners at Holden Beach. So thank you for being here, and Mr. Myers, you've got the floor.
Well, thank you. For those of you that are listening online, you probably noticed we're trying a new camera and microphone system, so please let us know. Is it better? Is it worse? What do you think? Do we need to keep looking? But we're trying to improve the voice, sound, and video image, so please give us some feedback on that. Before this meeting, we had a budget meeting, which we went through our objectives for the year, and I think we made a lot of progress. You can look at the packet, but we're going to come back with a revised list that pretty much spells out where we intend to be focusing our efforts and what objectives we've got for the upcoming year in terms of work we're going to get done and budget we're going to spend. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody that came out this evening. Again, knowing and dealing with the ADA most of my life in the school bus world and being part of this mediation, I was just trying to assure the public that we are not, we don't have an eye on it. We've got to look after everybody. And sooner or later, all of us are gonna be incapacitated at some point. And being able to walk out there or go out there on the Sailfish Park would be something that I would hate not to be able to do. So that was my only thoughts of wanting to move forward with what I thought was a very innovative plan. But we've got the feedback. Everybody seems to be content with that, but I feel sure at some point in time it will come back. I'd like to request my fellow commissioners that during our budget meeting, that we decided to combine a couple of meetings on the 8th and the 13th. Would it be okay if we have that one meeting on the 8th, the two combined meetings, and we'll still have the one on the 18th? Is that fine? By
Yes, sir.
consensus?
Great.
So we're gonna have it on the March 8th, and we're gonna delete the 13th.
Yeah, we're gonna have one on the 8th and then one on the 18th.
Okay, got it.
Would it be possible to allow that to be a little later in the day on the 8th to allow all of us commissioners to be here? I think the doc, if we made it at 4 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock, it'd be a lot easier on it.
Fine with me?
Yeah, I'll make it work.
4 o'clock on the 8th.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. The other thing I want to say is I don't, as Rick said, we're confused about, what we're going to do on the 29th. And what we did is we voted not to accept the bid, which I agree was way too high. And then we also voted not to have it rebidded, which I didn't agree to. But I think we should still put the pier plan as it is on the website, if it's not already. And that should be part of the conversation on the 29th. I mean, it should at least be, there's nothing wrong with the plan that we worked on for 4 years. So I think that needs to be also considered as part of the planning on the 29th. But the folks that are listening online, I know you guys, my phone's been blinking steadily, so I know there's a lot of folks out there listening tonight. But we as commissioners try our best to do our best. And sometimes we disagree and sometimes we agree to disagree. But I think that as we move forward, I hope that this board can come together and we can make a more unanimous votes and continue to move Holden Beach forward. Staff, we couldn't do it without you. The police department, the maintenance department, administration, Heather, everybody that puts all this stuff together, keeps everybody moving forward, is much appreciated. And that's all I've got right now, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Thomas?
So I just wanted to ask the lawyer if she's gotten the town files from Mr. Green.
Not yet. There was some sort of issue with the voicemail at his office when I first called, so we only got in contact via email about a week later. I was told that they would make copies for me last week, and we'll pick them up whenever when they contact me. So no, I don't have them in my possession right now, but hopefully soon.
Okay, thank you. As far as the peer input session, I mean, that's what it's being called. We want people's input on what they want with the peer. I know there's a lot of different opinions. There's repair it, rebuild it, do nothing. We want to know what people are thinking. When we did Sailfish, they did have those drawings up there, but a lot of people just said, do nothing. I mean, they gave their opinion of what they wanted to be done with Sailfish. So that's the kind of input we're looking for. I mean, I think I'm planning on being there. I think several of the other commissioners are planning on being there, so we'll be there to also hear your input, and then you can write down whatever you want on the comment sheet. That's all. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone that's listening online and for everyone coming out. We certainly appreciate your input and your comments, and I wanted to thank the staff. They're doing continued excellent work. I think they do a wonderful job. I just want to make mention, the paving process was mentioned. Keep in mind, it's going to take you probably about 20 to 30 minutes to move around the beach, so keep that in mind. You know, I use it for work, so I can, it took me 30 minutes to get from Scotch Bonnet to 1063 block, so plan ahead. Those guys are working hard. Let's keep them safe. If you get aggravated and you try to speed and you try to go around, you're going to kill someone. So we know it's happening. We know it's going to be happening until May. Just ask everybody, please be patient and let those guys do their work. And just know it's going to take you 20, 30 minutes to move through the island. Thank you.
Arthur?
Boy, I got a lot to say. Seriously, I want to thank everybody for participating, who's here and who's online. It's really important. We need to hear from you. On the peer input session, I would ask that people think about, what do you want in the end state of that property? Where do you want to end up? Me personally, I'd like to see the pier out to its original length and good for 30 years. You know, but maybe some just want this a little bit done. Mr. Carter's identified a concrete pier. I think we should, you know, see what's there, maybe swing for the fences. So look at what's there. You know, there's some good ideas. I liked the layout on the building. You may or may not. But come with an open mind and make your suggestions and let us know what you want. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to make a correction on something that I said at the 55th birthday party for the town. There used to be a mobile home, otherwise those models were called trailers. There used to be one in the 200 block, and I thought it was still there. After the birthday celebration, I went down there to see if it was still there, and lo and behold, it had been removed. And then I remembered David Hewitt told me about it, and I had forgotten about it. So that mobile home or trailer in the 200 block between Brunswick Avenue and the Boulevard is gone, and now, to my knowledge, there are no mobile homes or trailers illegally located on Holden Beach.
Mr. Mayor, if it makes you feel any better, I forgot I told you about it.
So anyway, I just want to make that correction, and with that, I think we have completed the agenda, is that right? But I'm hoping that somebody will make a motion that we go into the executive session. Is that what you were going to tell me, Madam Clerk?
I was going to ask if you wanted me to read it for you, so you could.
Yes, ma'am, if you'd be so kind.
Executive session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A5 to establish or instruct staff or agent concerning the negotiation of the price and terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property and the owner is Atlantic Telephone Membership Corp., parcel 231MD02101, property acquisition for public utilities.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all for being here. All right, is there a motion
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all righty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.